We're joined by Chris Gotowski, who's a journalist, and we're going to be talking about Poland and Hungary's roles in the European Union. Chris, welcome to TV World. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Great to be here. Actually, I'm a geopolitical analyst and university lecturer, former journalist, but okay.
Yeah, okay, former journalist.
Yes,
Thank you for correcting that. So let's start with that question. How would you characterize the roles of Poland and Hungary within the European Union?
Quite significant. In terms of Poland, we have to remember that Poland right now is the world's 21st largest economy within actually the European Union, fifth, sixth, depending if it's nominal or purchasing power parity. Poland's one of the largest countries in the European Union as well. So Poland certainly plays a very significant role. Hungary also in a different way. Hungary actually has gone more influential due to the fact that actually it's kind of the leader of this new kind of conservative movement, right? And it's got support in the United States, among far-right politicians, etc. So Hungary's role is different, but also quite important because, again, you know, they could veto important issues like sanctions, where you need unanimous voting within the European Union, something maybe the European Union may have to change in the future.
So what about now, I wanted to ask about Poland. Yeah. Do you think that those leaders who are responsible for bringing it into the European Union, are they thinking this is where we would see Poland now at this point?
Generally speaking, I would say yes. I'd say that this has been a huge success for Poland being in the European Union. Bear in mind, in 2004, so 20 years ago, Poland's GDP per capita, on actually purchasing power basis, was $14,000 a year. Now it's almost $50,000. That's a huge success. Now, even putting aside the statistics, we have to point out that actually, when you look at infrastructure, we look at the development, Poland has come a huge way. I personally remember even 20 years ago, traveling Western Europe, you could notice all the infrastructure, public transportation, much better. Now, quite frankly, I look at it the opposite way. Whenever I actually go to the Western Europe, I say, wow, in Poland's actually the infrastructure or public transportation is even better. So I would say yes. I'd say that the leaders that brought Poland into the European Union are very, very happy from the economic standpoint, okay?
Right.
Politically, it's been ups and downs. Let's put it that way. There's been a little bit of a bump on the road, so to speak, 8 years of a populist, lightly Eurosceptic government. I think the leaders that were bringing Poland into the European Union, maybe they would say, they didn't expect that to happen, right? That's also actually one of the main, I don't want to say failures of the European Union, but getting into the European Union is very difficult. Copenhagen criteria, etc. But that once you get in, the European Union didn't actually predict that countries would actually behave a certain way that Hungary, Poland in the past did.
Right. But surely that's par for the course, isn't it, when you're talking about democratic countries, and of course all of them within the EU are.
That's right.
How do you see public perception towards the EU today compared to 20 years ago when there was 77% support for Poland joining the EU?
That's right. When the referendum happened 20 years ago, it was 77.6, something along those lines, very high. Right. It still is high. It varies sometimes between 80 and 85, but there was some actually polls recently that actually surprised me. They were a little bit below that. So I think actually the general support for the European Union remains very strong. But like I said, those recent polls I saw actually a couple months ago did surprise me. They were in the 70s, sometimes even late 60-something. So I still think it's very, very high. Maybe not as high as it was 20 years ago, overall very high.
Right.
Now, what about if we were to look ahead? How do you see the future of Poland's role within the EU, also given the context of the, of course, challenges that are facing Poland and, of course, the EU?
Poland will play a very significant role, I think, because first and foremost, its size, being one of the largest, fifth largest country in the European Union, it has more and more economic, political clout. As long as actually Poland actually, from a political standpoint, maintains a strong position, I think actually Poland's position within the European Union will continue to get stronger and stronger as the years go by. But again, we saw that bump on the road just over the past 8 years, so only time will tell. But I do actually see that Poland's role will continue to play not only the European Union, this is a little bit different, but NATO and also the Transatlantic Alliance, but that's a little bit different story here.
Right. Well, as you know, European parliamentary elections are being held in June the 6th to the 9th. And there has been a shift, hasn't there, amongst representatives of a number of countries, Italy being one example, but there are others, towards the right and centre-right.
That's right.
How do you see the dynamic playing from the Polish perspective? Are they a counterbalance to this shift? Are they, going to slow things down? How do you see it?
I do see that at this moment.
Yeah.
That is at this moment, sure, with this ruling coalition, I think that is true. But you're absolutely right. The European parliamentary elections are just in 5 weeks, and there is this movement, this populist nationalist movement that is gaining ground. That is troublesome, but Poland, yes, it can play a leading role as a kind of a counterbalance at this moment. I do certainly see that.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to end it here, Chris, but thank you very much for sharing your analysis with our audience. We're going
My
now.
pleasure.